In today's video, we're going to take a look at the reverse lock. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, everything that could happen, at least that I can think of. Hopefully I don't forget anything. There's kind of a lot to say. One of the more common problems that people have with their outdrive is if they go in reverse, it won't lock down and actually pop out of the water. And the reason for that is the worn catch paws. You can see here how they are almost rounded on this particular one. Over here in the manual, it even shows the critical area. This should be a nice sharp point. With the outdrive locked all the way down, at no point, it doesn't matter what position the throttle's in, whether you're in forward, reverse, or neutral, should this outdrive ever lift up, unless you either hit something or you use the trim to unlock it and raise the lower unit. After all, this is kind of a bad design because with these mechanical tilt setups, you cannot go in reverse in, say, shallow water. I mean, it has to be locked down. Even going forward, you can only go slow because if you don't, you're going to put a lot of pressure on a trim and tilt unit. Some of you know this already, but the original Volvo Penta props were all left-hand, especially for the 4-cylinder motor. And when you take a look at your outdrive, you'll notice the linkage is on the right. That means you have a left-hand prop. All right, you can't put a right-hand prop on and then just move it. However, the only disadvantage to having a right-hand prop is if you hit something, it's not going to release the outdrive. Just so we have a clear understanding of what actually is going on here, this is neutral. All right, this is forward, and this is reverse. Okay, and reverse actually shoves this rod through there, and you'll see it stick out. Okay, that's reverse. Here's drive. So reverse, this rod is pushing on a helmet type looking bracket, which is this piece here, and it is rounded, so it doesn't matter what position the steering wheel is in, it'll always push this down. And there's a reason for that. It'll never release the outdrive from the locking bar down in here while going in reverse. And you'll notice it's in middle position. All right, normally there's a spring going from here to a rod here, and there's one on the other side too. And in order to show you what's going on, I actually had to remove it. This is forced down all the time by the spring, so it's resting on this pin right here. Well, if you were to hit something, this would fly all the way up like this. And because this is pivoting, it actually will release that locking rod that goes in your transom. So there's so much tension on this. You would really have to hit something pretty hard to force this to actually move up and open. And with this shield down, with it down, it actually locks it. It prevents it from ever going up. So if you have a right-hand prop on, and when you shift and drive, the transmission isn't going to know what's going on, what you did, that you reversed the transmission. So this is going to be down. So if you hit something, it's never going to come off, and it's just going to destroy this catch paw end here. So this is only meant for reverse. So when this is down, it's in reverse. It cannot go up at all. In drive, it can. And another problem is there's usually a spring right here, just a little coil spring that keeps this thing up. And if you look at your outdrive and it's constantly down, this spring is probably broke. That's a common problem too. With it being broke, not really a big deal unless you hit something. Now, if you do hit something, two things are going to happen here. First, even though the springs are activated and everything and it releases the drive, so much pressure and force is going to be applied to the tip of this that it's going to mushroom it over. And the second thing that's going to happen is the bottom bolts through your transom are going to want to try and pull through because it's going to try and pry this off the back of your boat. The old boats with the rotted transoms, you'll notice people will put like a layer of caulk around their transom shield. It's like a temporary band-aid because this seal no longer touches the boat. on the transom. And to fix that, you just simply undo the bottom washers and put bigger washers or even a metal plate and then bolt it back on. That'll keep this from leaking. All right, looking at these catch paws, there's a point where you can actually save them. And this one actually looks pretty decent. They're not too rounded off, the tips are, but if it's totally round like this one here, there's no saving that unless you try and put maybe tack a weld on here or something. I never tried that, but with a lot of filing, maybe you could. All right, if you do have to replace the catch paws, you don't have to remove the whole reverse lock from its assembly. All right, you could simply just remove this bar with these two springs. You could do that with a pry bar, and then get a 13mm wrench or a 1/2 inch and remove these two nuts, and you can replace them that way. The inner spring that usually breaks, that holds that shield in the upright position. There's a guy that actually did that without removing the unit too. I've never done that. That might be a real big pain, but apparently you can do that. Another problem that can happen with these is on the center part, there's a stop on each side. This one's already broke off. I've seen that a bunch of times too. And when they break, it can actually tweak it. However, it's not that big of an issue. If you do have a broken one, I wouldn't replace it, because this can only go down so far anyway. It won't even go past that stop. The center bar actually hits the bottom of the intermediate housing. Another problem, and this is a common one too, is this push sleeve. If these are not at the right height, the book says it should be sticking out 1/16, although I usually see them sticking out at about 1/8. For 1/16, you'd have to check to make sure it actually works and releases the outdrive. But what can happen is these can actually, if they're too high, if they loosen, there's a jam nut on there. I don't know if you could see that under there. There's a jam nut. It's supposed to lock that push sleeve in there. But what happens when they stick out too high and it's tilted forward, as this tilts forward, the button can pop back out, and then the foot of your trim can actually press it forward. And as you see, what happened here is it mushroomed the whole tip of this. And this is pretty much shot. I can actually fix that with an aluminum welder, but there's no point in this one. It's just too loose. All right, say this was always at the right height and you never had a problem with it. This can still actually go bad on you, because what happens is over a time with the foot of the trim unit coming down on this, it can actually mushroom over the aluminum, and it can prevent the push sleeve from popping back out. So essentially your outdrive would never lock down. And that could be a problem too, why your outdrive will not stay in a locked position. Check this, make sure the button actually sticks out. Another problem, not very common, but I've seen this little knob here get busted off. And if that's the case, you're going to have to replace this center for sure. Okay, because that's what keeps the tension on the bottom jaws to grab the lock. So you'll have to remove it from the unit, the whole thing. So you're going to have to push out the water tube. I'm going to try, I always use a press to do this, but for this video, again, because not everyone has a press, I'm going to just use a hammer and a socket. I'll show you that, but there are other things to look at as well in where you might have to actually remove this thing. And another one would be is if you're overheating. If your engine is overheating and you isolated the impeller pump and you know there's no broken impeller pieces in your engine, and you know your outdrive is actually sucking air, it's usually this top union. They usually corrode and rust. This one's really good. But if you can actually rock this back and forth, you'll see the movement here. Okay, you see how it rocks in and out? That means the water tube bushing is actually worn out, and that can cause an air leak. It can cause your outdrive to suck air, so your impeller won't be able to pull the water through the outdrive and get it to the engine. I removed the union, and we'll take off the gasket. And this is where you can have an air leak. You'll see there's plenty of slop in there. Air will definitely get through. And it wouldn't be bad if this whole thing was underwater. You wouldn't have to worry about it. However, this part of the boat is not sitting underwater. Right, I'm getting ready to push out the water tube. I'll be using a 7/8 socket. You'll put it on the top here. It's actually a little bit smaller than a water tube, so it'll work perfect. And of course, we're going to be tapping in a downward direction. But before you do, take note. We are going to be looking for 3 washers. When you take this, you're going to need to know this to put it back together. Right on the bottom here, there's a big metal one. And in between, or above and below the reverse lock, there's going to be a nylon washer. And here's what we're looking for. Looking for the big one, and then the 2 nylon ones. And when you put this thing back together, you're going to have to line all that up before you shove the water tube back up in there. This actually came out a little easier than I thought. I probably should have recorded it, but the needle bearings in here are all corroded and rotting away. Anyway, we'll try and take this apart. Without everything flying all over the place. All right, here you can see the gasket in there, or the nylon. There's one on the top. There's one on the bottom here. You can't see that as good. It's dirty. And then there's the big washer on the bottom. Let's finish pulling this apart. Easy way of getting this out is on the rod side, push it all the way in one, take the opposite side and lift up as you wiggle it out, and it'll come right out. Now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to throw it in a sandblaster, and I'll show you how to fix the catch paws. These are savable. Before I forget, this is the water tube bushing. Simply press it out with your fingers, and this is what you'll want to replace. All right, here we are, all nice and clean. And you can see just how bad those catch paws are. Well, let's try and fix that. See if we can see this. All we're going to do is we're going to pound these back down with a hammer. Then, when we get her all nice and flat, we're going to do a little bit of filing. Let's see if I can show you what this looks like. Let's do some filing. Alright, all I did was file the catch paws. I took a file all the way across to make sure I wasn't going on any angle. I caught the inside, the outside here, and whatever little bit is on the corners. And this is how she looks right now. Nice and sharp. So we'll put it in sandblaster again. She's been sandblasted. That hides any file marks. She does look really good. And this actually worked before, so although I can't put a ton of pressure on it, so I don't know how good it worked, like say in reverse. You can only do so much by hand. But anyway, this turned out great. So all you have to do now is just make sure everything moves freely, blow it out, or an air chuck, grease the whole thing, reinstall it. Hopefully I answered many questions. If there's any more that I may have forgotten, let me know in the comments section.